Oh, whoa! Okay, hopefully this is working. So, in just a few minutes, everybody will start chiming in and whatnot, and looks like it's showing up on Twitch, so I think we're doing all right. How about that? All right. Well, okay, so got a new computer now. And it should hopefully be much better at handling everything. Finally got 2 monitors kind of set up, and I'm hoping that that works too, because quite honestly, it's been interesting. So if I run into problems, I might have to troubleshoot it a little bit, but you know, we're good at that stuff. That's how we go. It's going to give you guys a few minutes to kind of let me see if I can log in really quickly. Pixelogic is now live. How's everybody doing? It looks like we just had a jump in our attendance. Okay, let me see. Facebook. I gotta log out, add an account, and I gotta get logged in. So okay, oops. That's better. Good night. Good morning, everybody. It looks like we've already got people chiming in, including the great Thomas. How you doing, good Sir Thomas? All right, let me see. That's in, which means I should be able to come over here and say connect, and then we should be good. Come on. All right. Should be good. De Nicaragua. Wow. ¿Cómo va todo de la revolución? De la guerra civil que está pasando ahí. All right. Well, now that we're getting some friends in here, let's get started. So, I got some reference. My kids, for Christmas, got Candyland. So if you remember, our topic for our for our sculpt is good morning, guys. Thanks for coming and tuning in. The topic for the sculpt off that I got back from the from my Instagram poll. Hola Dante. ¿Qué tal, vive? The theme was, you can see at the top left corner of my ZBrush. Got up here, got Candyland and Brazilian Desert. Okay, the Sertão. Really excited about this, and so my sister sent the kids Candyland. So it'll be kind of fun to go through and refer to this periodically, possibly. I mean, it's funny because the game itself has changed a lot in its design since I played it as a kid. But hey, it might be fun just anyway. Gotta keep that off to the side. All right. Cool. Well, let's get started on this. So today, some of the stuff that I want to go through and work on, I'm going to probably go ahead and start to create layers of this. I think it's called pere moleke. I think, maybe not. I don't remember. If I'm wrong, it just looks like peanut brittle of some really cool kind. And what I want to do is I want to make it in sections, because it seems like I've seen it also more like peanut brittle in other pictures that I've seen. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep in mind this this peanut brittle, and I want to create a few things. I'm going to create first an insert mesh brush, which will help me to create the peanut sections. And then I also want to go through and start creating the actual layers. So far, you know what? Come here. It's kind of doing some funny things. Kind of wish that I need to add in like another extra point over here. So one of the things that I can do, I want to have a little bit more definition right here. So what I'll probably do is let's solo this out. Do I have all of this? No, it's not that. For some reason, I thought it was shift, but maybe it's not shift. Oh well, whatever. So what I'm making right now, I just kind of started blocking it in. I'm trying to think about compositions too, of how to be able to create this Candyland themed Brazilian desert winter wonderland mixed, a desert made of dessert. How you doing, Ghost of Christmas Future? It's good to see you. Wasn't feeling super awesome today, so if I have to get up to get water later on, please forgive me. Okay. Oh, this might also be a good opportunity to go through and mention at XMD Academy. XMD Academy is starting up. If anybody knows Michael Dunham, he started this project, kind of more of like a whatchamadiggit. An academy, an online academy. So for people to be able to go through and learn ZBrush and learn different tools and tricks, and I get to go through and teach as part of that. It's going to be pretty cool. I'm actually used to looking up here because this is where my actual webcam is, but I couldn't get that one working, so we're using the one right here on the laptop. Yeah, it's kind of a pain. Whatever. No, free lessons, no. They're not tutorials, it's actual classes. So enrollment is open now. And if you go to xmdacademy.com or something like that, let me see actually real quick, just for the sake of being able to tell you. XMD. So if you go to xmdsource.com, Hola Javi, saludos. Let's see. Yeah, there's that link right there. So yeah, it'll be fun. It'll be good to go look at it. Michael Dunham is he's a really great guy, and his you know, he's really well known in the ZBrush community. But yeah, it'll be fun. I'll be teaching a class dealing with creating stylized machines, you know, designing them and building them. It'll be really fun. So anyway, that's kind of what I've been into lately, working on lately in my free time. How's the sound? Is the sound coming across all right? I hope it is, because if it's not, I'm not sure what I'll do about it. Okay, let me see. Alright, let's go ahead. Let's create a peanut. Let's say clone, and then we'll come over here. Let's initialize this down to one of these beautiful little cubes. Good. Thanks, Wonder Mustard. You just relieving all sorts of stress today. So today I'll probably be on for a couple hours. A 72-hour stream. Good night. I don't know what I would do with that. Not that I have nothing that I could stream about, but okay, let's make this kind of a whole peanut. And let's turn this to multiple edge loops just to make sure that we can get one right in the center. Okay. Oh, you know what? That's a pain in the butt. Okay, let's turn smooth off. Now we can subdivide it. Okay, let me see. These peanuts, they look kind of... I'm going to come over here. Let's turn on symmetry in the X and the Z direction. Actually, let's do this. Learning curve for modeling with hard surface modeling for ZBrush. So the learning curve I've gone through with my hey Quintonius, how you doing, dude? Happy New Year. Yeah, so the learning curve with yeah, that should be good. Inside region. With hard surface modeling inside of ZBrush, it's not too bad. One of the things that I think a lot of people get hung up on is that ZBrush is so good for organic sculpting, that they feel like they couldn't possibly do hard surface stuff in here. That's because they think primarily about things like Dynamesh or Sculptress Pro or other things like that. But a lot of what I like to do includes, let's turn on local symmetry, includes things like this, being able to use my just standard little extrusion tricks, hold control and pull it out, so you get this nice little bit of a what's it called? That didn't quite hold it in the center. A little bit of an extrusion though. Okay, let's say move it forward. Actually, let's move it forward first. Now I can move it forward and shrink it down. Oh, I see. So because I have local symmetry on, that's why it's giving me that problem. Let's actually do this. Let's go ahead, we'll say scale polygroup island. A lot of it just comes down to just experimenting and learning, but I've broken the course down into simple tricks and being able to take things kind of step by step. Well, that's not what I wanted. I wonder why I did that. Let's see what's going on here, because this is kind of weird. So I scaled the polygroup island to the polygon center. It's so weird. Okay, I have no idea why it's doing that. Local symmetry. Actually, let's just turn off my symmetry. Okay, so for some reason now it's keeping that shape. And I'm just going to go ahead and tap on that one to make sure that it's the same. Okay, so now what I want to do is let's go ahead. I'm going to bevel this, edge loop complete. Yeah, single row. Let's make sure, turn on my grid just to make sure that I'm getting this side. See, what I want to do right now is I just want to kind of create this sort of separation so you can see that there are a couple of pieces that are being halved together. Now I can take this and scale, edge loop partial. Okay. And then peanuts aren't completely round like that. Let's see what it looks like though when we smooth it out. Let's see. It's not quite round enough, so here's what we're gonna do. Let's turn on our symmetry, because we have it in the X and the Z direction. Okay. Now what I want to do, now we can bend this. So I'm going to turn off symmetry. I'm going to hold Alt and tap on my rotation just to make sure that it's not rotated. I'm going to hit that homing button there, not the home button, but the homing button, to be able to take it to the center. And start working on this. Bend arc. Okay, this one isn't going to work for me. Let's go ahead, let's use bend curve. Because So this one I know I can at least change directions. And then let's get a resolution here. Okay. Play with this a little bit. So resolutions for this year. My resolutions for this year are to stop making stupid resolutions. No. Let me see. In all honesty, I haven't really thought about actual resolutions. I know that there are things that I'd like to do. But like I want to go through and I want to finish this environment piece. One of the things I want to do is I want to illustrate a children's book with my wife. She's written the text already, and I'm just the artist that lags behind. I'm the bottleneck. I'm holding her back. Okay. Now, this is nice-ish. I mean, I'll still tweak it a little bit. But one of the things I want to do is I want to take this. I'm going to Control-Shift-D. Okay, so that'll give me my whole peanut. Okay, and I'm going to take this. I want to go back in my history until I should have done this before I actually ruined everything before I used the deformers. Okay, so I'm just going to come back. Oh, right there. Oh. Oh, peanut. Alright, so this way we've got one that's symmetrical. I'm going to go through, I'm going to take this, I'm going to say rename peanut whole. Control-Shift-D. Since this is all one thing, we're going to go Control-Z modeler. We're going to go ahead and delete this poly loop. Because we can. Because we can. Okay, get rid of that. Let's delete this island down here because we don't need that. Okay. Has anybody been watching anything fun lately? Lately I started watching a show called Travelers, and that's a fun one. Get them on. They're actually getting in bed. Yeah, on streaming nights. I mean, usually I try to help with getting the kids down. Streaming nights are a little bit trickier. Okay, let's go ahead, let's bevel this. so here's what we're gonna do. Essentially, what I'm doing essentially is I'm trying to go ahead and take these edges and bridge them to this, but I don't want this this center ring of edges to kind of go and be carried through. I want this to be capped off. So essentially this is going to be taken in. I'm going to say collapse edge. You see, so it'll be like this, and it'll have another edge running down the middle, and the middle edge will be kind of put down a little bit so that it's so that creates kind of like in the inside of a peanut. There's like this little groove. Now, you saw Aquaman yesterday, Quentin. Wasn't bad, but was it good? I heard a lot of people really complaining about it. Okay, so first things first, let's come in here, let's insert this. And then we're going to collapse. Notice that when I collapse, it does matter where you click. Okay, I'm going to click close to the point that I want to collapse to the other point. Okay, so I'm going to click here to be able to get the outside point to collapse to the inside point. Otherwise, if I click here, it's going to collapse it that way. Okay, so take it, collapse it there, and we're good to go. Let's go ahead, let's just close this off. It's a good time for that. Okay, gonna use my handy dandy mask edge loop partial, because that's how I do. Oh, I just want so badly to see that Spider-Man Into the Universe, or the multiverse rather. Spider-Verse, Spider multi-edge-verse. Aquaman was good, 6 out of 10. Yeah, it's been a while since I've seen a good DC movie. Kind of terrible, actually. Oops. Okay, let's come in here. Really quickly, what I want to do is I just want to kind of give myself an alternate polygroup in here so that I can inset it. Polygroup island, inset region. Yeah, the DC movies could be super ton better. Although I do like their TV series. You know, one of my favorites is what's it called? Arrow. I love Arrow. It's one of my favorites to watch. Yeah, it did have kind of like a lull, if you will, which is disappointing. I feel like One of the things that I kind of wish would stop happening is that they would stop trying to bring Laurel back. I feel like that was kind of weird. It's cool at times, but I feel like it's just too much. Like, they're just dragging out that character's death way too much. But whatever. And what are they on now? Season 6? Is that the last one that came out? Okay, let me see. I'm trying to think. Should I make... So this will be a good little piece of a peanut. I'm trying to decide... Oh, 7? Cool. Trying to decide if I should go through and make one that's kind of, like, almost as if it were chipped. I should. Let's do it. It's better to have too many than not enough. Control-Shift-D. Pardon me. Okay, yeah, so we're going to come up here. Oops. Escape. I'm just going to say half, and then we'll say half broken. Thanks to peanut modeling. It's one of my special skills. It's on my resume. I feel like, and this is something I feel very strongly about, I feel like everyone ought to be able to model peanuts. But nobody does. Nobody does. Modify topology, delete hidden. The things the world is missing out on. Okay, let me see what I've got matching up. Okay. Quit now. No, don't quit now. Okay, so I'm trying to decide right now what I want to do to be able to bridge these together, because essentially I need to make sure that I have a solid end here. I think that this might be the best way to go about it, but we'll have to see. Therapy. Oh my goodness. Okay, let me see. So let's do our Z model. What we're going to do, let's insert. I'm just going to use single edge right now because it doesn't really matter a whole lot. Oops. Interesting. Okay. So here's what we're going to do. I want to make sure that I get the same thing kind of like we did on the other end here. So like how we have that collapsed point right there. Except I don't have to worry about doing that sort of thing here. I can just kind of connect it. Here's what we're going to do. Let's take this point. I'm going to slide it up. I'm going to take this in. This is essentially going to go through and loop across now. Okay, so let's might be worthwhile to just keep that on there. Yeah, here's what we're gonna do. Here's what we're gonna do, okay? Let's go ahead, let's use our insert. Let's take our remove brush and just kind of pull this down. Let's go back and let's use our bridge. First edge, second edge, first edge, second edge. Let's just make sure that somewhat matches there. What do you guys think? Are you getting that kind of that salty taste in your mouth, you know, that you get after you get off of an airplane? Yeah, see, Ghost of Christmas Future understands. And Tommy, I guess that can count, you know, if you're already nutty. That's what my mom would say. Did that work? I don't think that worked. First edge, second edge. There we go. I need to get my lasso out. I'm so happy though. This is finally starting to work. Okay, so I'd mentioned at the beginning of the stream that I got a new computer. It's a laptop. It is the, I think it's by Acer, if I'm not mistaken. It's the Predator. Okay, it's a great, yeah, by Acer. It's a fantastic machine. It actually has 32 gigs of RAM, which is fantastic for a laptop. The hard thing is that it only has one hard drive with a 512 gigabyte memory on it, so that's been the hardest part of it for me so far. And so what I've been trying to do is I've been trying to get used to just a different workflow. You know, so instead of saving to my D drive like I would before, I have to put in an external hard drive, which, you know, is fine. The other thing that I'm going to try to look at is whether or not I can actually go ahead and if I can install maybe the hard drive from my other laptop, because that'll give me a decent amount of space to be able to have my software, to be able to have, you know, some saving space as well, because otherwise it's just meh. Okay, so I want this to be crisper. So what do? We're going to come back into our Z model and we're going to say crease. We're going to crease this bad boy. Not in the polygons. Come on. Edge loop partial. Make sure that we get that top edge. Oh, it's masked. There we go. Now it looks like a broken half of a peanut. You know what? Let's actually try modifying this. And you know what? Purely because we can, we're going to come over here, we're going to say Control-Shift-D, and we're going to get, oops, had my finger finger on spacebar rather than on rather than on Alt. I did hit duplicate, right? Okay, yeah, we did. We're gonna do this. Okay. Dynamic brush. How's it going? Okay, we're gonna call that pretty cool for this side of the peanut. And this way we can kind of make it feel a little bit more broken up. Let's try it. Let's try adding something like that over here. I'm trying to keep it pretty low poly for right now. Eventually what I would do if I were going to go through and do an entire surfacing treatment on this is I would take this and then I could come in and I can up my resolution and I can do my hey Jesse. Thank you. Sorry, I'm pointing at the wrong webcam. I'm trying to like make sure that I point at this one because this one's not working. Lame. Okay, so there's my peanut. Okay, there's the whole. Here's the half. In fact, we could go to the side view, and it'll feel more dynamic. Whole, half, broken half, smaller broken half. Okay, now what we can do is I can go Control-Shift-D, and we're going to do something fancy. We're going to say mirror. So I'll be streaming every Wednesday evening. Dude, Quintonius, thanks for coming by. Hopefully it's been fun. Yeah, so Wonder Mustard. Yeah, I'll be on Wednesday nights. So yeah, thanks for coming in. The Battle Dolphin. The Battle Dolphin was fun. But I got a really cool idea for an environment, and since that was the intended theme for my sculpt, that's what I decided to go back to. Okay, here is going to be, okay, so since it's a really good question, Jesse. Okay, so what we want to do, I'll show you over here. Let's come over here and show this thing here. Okay, so under subtool, there's append and there's insert, like you were pointing out. Okay, so a new type of nut every Wednesday. No, probably not. I mean, the peanut was just for me to be able to go through and create this. I'm pretty sure it's called pede moleque, but that's me using a Spanish pronunciation of the Portuguese spelling. Anyway, so to get back, to be able to get back to the question Jesse Jenny asked on YouTube, the difference between append and insert. So append. Okay, let me actually get to the top subtool. Okay, so this is how you can go through and you can kind of differentiate between the two of them. Okay, so insert, you can come in here and you can say I want to insert this peanut half broken. Okay, it's just going to insert that one subtool. Okay, so I'm going to insert that. Let's turn off my thing here. Okay, so with insert, it inserts it right beneath the subtool you have selected. So this is really helpful when I'm going through and I'm creating characters, or I'm creating other assets where I want to make sure that I have my subtools in a specific order, and I'm working on them separate, like I'm working on with this environment right here, that one right there. Yeah, so that's just kind of the fun part about about being able to use insert, is be able to put it down right beneath the subtool you have selected. If you were to hit append, you know, say maybe I'm working up here on my terrain, I hit append and I want to bring in peanut half broken, it's going to put it at the very bottom of my subtool list. So really cool. And you can see append has end on it, so that's a good way to kind of remember it. So I'm just going to go ahead and let's just get rid of them. Delete. Yeah, always okay. Delete. Okay, now we've made very little. Oh, I gotta change my keyboard shortcuts. Did you see that? So I don't have all of my windows popping up when I hit save. Essentially, what I want to do is I want to assign. I like to assign keyboard shortcuts to certain things. So like load tool, I'll assign that to Control O, like you would on any other application, any other program. And then on Save As, Control S. So what I need to do is Control Alt, click on it, and then I can hit Control S. Okay, so now my custom hotkey has been set to Control S for saving the Z tool. And I want to do the same thing, Control O. Okay, so Control O will now open a load the tool, and now Save As. So now when I quit ZBrush, I need to remember to save those hotkeys. it'll pop up with a little box saying, do you want to save the project? I usually say no, and then it'll say, do you want to save custom hotkeys? That's when I say yes. And really quickly, let's say opacity on this spotlight stuff. And actually, I forgot to come over here and turn off spotlight projection, because so these images are brought in through the spotlight function underneath texture, and this is the same spotlight that I saved out last week. And so I just went ahead and hit load spotlight and used it. But yeah, either way, whenever you load in your spotlight images, you still have to go ahead and turn off that samples. Okay, so now that we have some peanuts, okay, I'm going to go to this view where we have all the different. I want to turn off this top one because I don't need it. What I want to do is I want to turn these peanuts into an insert multi-mesh brush. I just dropped my stylus. And I guess, you know, let's, just for the sake of making sure that I have another half like this, but in the opposite direction, Control-Shift-D. Let's just take this, hit that to the bottom, so we have it all in order, 1, 2, 3, 4. We're going to do the same thing. We're going to hit geometry, or not geometry, sorry, deformation. But we don't want it in the X direction. Let's change it to the Z direction. Okay, now we're good. I heard really, well, I'm not going to say it was weird. It is weird, but it was, I kind of liked it too. I can't remember what the name of the artist is, but there was a song I heard today. I think it came out this year. She had a really strange name. What is it called? I can't even remember. I can't even remember. Okay, anyway. So, now we've got this. I'm just going to come up to the peanut hole. I just want to make sure that I'm looking straight down on it. I want to make sure perspective is turned off. And let's create that brush. Create insert multi-mesh. And so now you can see I've got all my little pieces in here and they're all named. The only one that I thought that by having it turned off, like having it invisible, it would not include it, but I guess it included it anyway. So yeah, Peanut 01, I just want to come up here, brush, and let's say delete mesh. Underneath create, you hit delete mesh, and now you're down to just the pieces that you want. So I've got whole, half, half broken, half broken, half broken, half broken. All of them are conveniently titled half bro, whatever. It'll be cool someday when you can come in here and you can say rename mesh. That would be a nice function. Z-nut. That's funny. That's funny. First thing I've got to do, actually, let's go ahead and let's say save as. We're going to say I'm going to name it Z-nut 01. That was clever. That was clever. So yes, I'm going to make multiple instances. What I'm going to do is I'm going to try to use, at some point, I don't know if I'll get to it tonight or not, but at some point I want to use probably nanomesh to be able to populate a surface. So let's come over here and actually let's save this part. So Control S. Okay, that sounds good. We'll just keep it at the name that it's on. Okay. Cool. Alright, let's come back over here. Okay. So, a lot of what I'm going to start doing now is like this rock right here. This is part of what I want to be able to bring into this, because this point in my composition, I want this to feel like a transition between winter and desert. Oh, so there isn't a nanomesh option inside of Core? That's interesting. Huh. I haven't actually used Core. But that's really good to know, actually. Okay. Let's see. Okay, so it was interesting. I was thinking through this before coming into this today. And I was thinking about, well, I don't really need this brush. I never use a ton of these brushes. Typically what I'll go through and do is I'll delete brushes that just don't matter to me. Yeah, I mean I don't use more than half of the brushes that are actually in here. Yeah, so anyway, I'll just come in here. What I want to do is I want to start by adding in another tree. Let's use my insert cube. Okay, let's rotate that around. So since this mountainous section, I intend for that to be more of like a pucha la cosa, más more like a mountainous sort of area, more forest. I want to have more tree kind of coming in here, so I'm going to have probably a really big tree back here, and then have roots kind of cascading down. Oh, hey, how about that? I hate that. So this I totally didn't even pay attention. I just want to get rid of that. It doesn't matter to me. I'm just going to go ahead and do that and say cube, the Q cube. That's the one that gives me like limited topology. Okay, let's go ahead and let's get this in here. It's a little too big. Come on. Let's do smooth. For some reason it's not saving that. Let's store config. No, I don't actually use Blender in my pipeline. I've tried using Blender, and Blender's getting better, but it just doesn't compare with I see what the problem is. It just doesn't compare with Maya and ZBrush. So to render, I use a combination of different things. And it depends on what I'm working on too. If it's just a regular sculpt that I want something pretty to kind of show off, I'll take it into Keyshot. If it's something that's really kind of just quick render to be able to ooh, I wonder what if I were to take this and make this part of the root that goes into that. Okay, so now I'm starting to think a little bit more. Yeah, so if I'm wanting to just show roughly the idea of what it is that I'm doing, I'll just do a BPR render inside of ZBrush and just call it good. Otherwise, if I'm using Maya, I'll use Arnold. So, pretty nice, pretty... It's like, I wonder if I were to take this and kind of essentially just mush it. Into essentially trying to take this and make this a root. One of the tricky things is that in making this a root, I'm kind of shooting myself in the foot. Let's do this. Oh, so Arnold is a physical based renderer based inside of Maya. It wasn't always part of Maya. Before it was part of 3ds Max, and it was its own standalone render package. It's really nice, and you can get some really cool effects with it really pretty quickly, just right out of the gate, but it's extremely expensive unless you get it with a package like Maya or 3ds Max or other things like that. That tends to be how I get my renderers. Like Keyshot, I got the Keyshot with like through Pixelogic because there's like a special deal licensing that it's not nearly as expensive by like it's like a tenth of the price. Getting the whatchamajigget getting the Keyshot for ZBrush rather than getting just the regular Luxion Keyshot Pro. Just works a whole lot easier. Okay. Samples, good. Modifiers, take that down to not 20. 8. Trying to think if there's anything else I need on this. Let's flip vertical. This doesn't have to get all the way down to 0, but I do want it to stay bigger for longer. Okay. Ah. See if we can get this going. Oh, that's the other thing I wanted to check. Come over here to stroke. Curve, this curve step, change that up to 1. Let's come over here to this lock start. .3D Paint, their projects. So are you referring to going through and using like poly paint, doing that inside of ZBrush, or taking your final model over into Substance Painter or something like that? Painting in ZBrush, yeah, it can be confusing. I think that's looking better. Yeah, I mean, I have used ZBrush to be able to paint textures. You know, in essence, 3D paint my project, but I don't typically, you know, with my professional projects, it's really always been more about you know, Substance Painter, which is fine. Actually, I've got my Substance Painter shirt on today. Sorry. Got this carrot kind of coming out the backside. Okay, so one of the things I'm noticing is that it's not flexible enough. So what I want to do is I want to take the stroke, and I got to find the right button. It might actually be underneath modifiers. This max bend angle, if you change it up, it gets more rigid. Oh, wait, nope, never mind. That's actually what I wanted, was for it to be more like 90 degrees. So it becomes more fluid, it becomes more more flexible. The closer you take it down to 1, the less that curve is going to bend. So that can become really, really helpful to you. Actually, let's just keep it right there. Oh no, questions are great. Yeah, if you have questions, yeah, feel free to drop them in. We'll talk about them. I feel like these are good opportunities to be able to network and be able to ask questions, be able to kind of work together and figuring out things that may or may not be easy to do, or really just known. You know, this is kind of tricky. I have tried 3D Coat and I hate it. Yeah, it's not really my cup of tea. Okay, something like that. Okay, so now what we can start to do, yeah, 3D Coat's kind of tricky. It's fairly easy-esque, I guess. I mean, it's not by any means my preferred though. Yeah, let's insert an edge loop here, and let's insert one here. My favorite ride or attraction at Disneyland. I've never been to Disney World. Kind of a funny thing about me is that my first time going to Disneyland was with my wife. I was 22 years old, and the reason I find that funny is because most of my friends have kind of grown up going to Disneyland, you know, multiple times a year, which really boggles my mind now that I know how expensive it is just to go once. And yeah, so I mean it's just absolutely crazy. So my favorite ride at Disneyland I like California Adventure a lot, and I really liked going on. I really like Space Mountain, and that's in Disneyland. But in California Adventure, I really liked the Haunted Mansion, or not the Haunted Mansion, with the Tower of Terror. I do really like Haunted Mansion too, though. I feel like it's got interesting appeal. It's just something different, something interesting. Got thieves breaking and entering. Okay, let's see how this is working. It's starting to. So I started in 3D in high school. 2006. It was interesting. A friend of mine invited me to a 3D animation class, and it just blew my mind that that'd even be a thing. And before then, I wanted to go into marine biology. I wanted to study reef genetics. And when I tried out the animation class, I just fell in love with it and thought it was great. And so I started going ahead and trying to figure out how to go into animation. But yeah, pretty groovy stuff. So the reason I'm keeping the poly count so low is because it's easier to manipulate it to get the shape that I want. Right now the shape is, it's much easier to mold. If I were to be using something like Dynamesh or even Sculptress Pro, it would be so much more dense and my brushes wouldn't be as effective. Do I work in the 3D industry? Yes, I do. Currently I'm a 3D concept modeler for Walt Disney Imagineering. I work on designing the rides for Disneyland Tokyo, and it's pretty fun. Not sure if I'll ever actually get to go to Disneyland Tokyo, but we'll see. We'll see. How you doing? And so another reason why I'm keeping the topology so low, yeah, so this will go in nicely to Amir's question on YouTube. One of the things that I like to do, because my background is more with clean topology. I've worked at DreamWorks. I've worked for Warner Brothers Games. I've taught classes at university for a few years now. And one of the things that I like to be able to do is to have my meshes be very production ready. And that means that I need to have a good edge flow. And the way that I get there is by starting and keeping things, low and in control. Ooh, this could be cool. Sometimes it's these happy accidents that just make you happy that you had an accident. okay, you don't have to lock the door. The kids are asleep. Shit them. Okay. So now, because I'm making more decisions on what I want this to look like, it's going to be helpful to me to extend the terrain. You know, right now I have it over here. I want to bring it a little bit further out that way. That way. All right. So yeah, that way. Bob Ross. Bob Ross strikes again. So what I want to do, this is what my terrain looks like as of right now. This is not the final terrain. This is me kind of just blocking it in, figuring out what it's going to look like. So what I want to do, I want to Shift D to bring it out of that low mode. Going to my Z modeler. One of my favorite things to do to be able to mask. This is awesome, okay? I'm going to go over to mask under my edge options and edge loop partial, and boom, I've got just that edge masked out. Now I can do the next one over. Now I've got two, and now I can use my hard surface extruding technique. So if I just hold Control, let's hold Alt and make sure that this is all zeroed out. Hold Alt and click on the rotate, make sure it's all zeroed out, and Control, click and drag, and that's good to go. Okay, so right now, what I want to do, let's take this. I'm just going to kind of mold it into place. One of the other things I'm going to need to do is add in an extra, I don't know, maybe 5 edge loops in here, but I'll do it like one at a time so that I don't have to worry about controlling too many. Okay, so I'm just gonna insert one here. And actually, let's bring one in over here, because I have this root right here that I want to make sure that it's showing. So I'm just going to kind of pulling down. And this is where I can come in and I can alternate how this surface flows. One of the things that I want to keep in mind is what I want this surface to be made out of. And so I'm thinking about my rock, and I'm thinking about this right here. The reason I use this rock as my reference is because, and you can see it off to the, just beneath my my webcam view. The reason why I'm using this rock, that rock, is that it's the kind of rock. It looks like it's probably limestone, which is a good kind of rock for a mountainous region. Especially, I grew up in Utah. There's a lot of limestone mountain there. There's also a lot of granite, but there's a lot of limestone. And that limestone, because Utah is a desert. Oscar. Yeah, it's a crazy theme. But because of how the gets, that's the technical term. Because of how the mountains are there in Utah, that just helps me to understand a little bit about what I want this to be doing. So I can kind of change the flow. Then I'll add in more definition, like more edge loops through here. And then I'll make sure that this is giving me the shape that I want. But little by little, that's why you keep it so low, is that it allows you to be able to make big changes really quickly. Okay, let's pull this up. Let's pull this out. I'm Unwell, I think is what it's called. That's the song that I heard earlier. Okay, let's go ahead. Let's insert another edge loop here. Oh, by the way, guys. Okay, so wonderful young man that just commented on our Twitch channel, Oscar Trejo. He is awesome, great, fantastic artist. Oscar is just he does a lot of creatures and things like that, and he's also a Pixelogic streamer. He's one to go watch. He did this really cool Men in Black themed creature last week or week before, something like that. And yeah, super cool. So go check that out. You'll find it on the Twitch channel or on the YouTube or anything like that. And yeah, it'll be cool. Yeah. And if you want to see his streaming schedule, you can find that on the Pixelogic streaming website. Okay. One of the things that I want to go through and do. Okay. The cocada, I think, is going to be really cool. Yeah, so ZModeler is very tricky. Let me see. Yair. Merovitz. That is such a cool name. I find the ZModeler very hard to use. Do you just get used to it? Can you make its menu float on screen, or do you always have to press the space key? Yeah, so it is the space key. Just so you are right. And yeah, I mean, I don't know if there's a way to be able to. Are you talking about being able to dock it over to the side? As far as I can tell you right now, I don't think there's a way to be able to dock it, to be able to bring it over and make it so that it stays on the side. A good person to ask, though, is Joseph Drust. So if you were to go ahead and if you were to ask that question on Twitter with hashtag #AskZBrush, in fact, I can go ahead and let's say on Twitter. Ask Joseph Drust using that hashtag #AskZBrush, and it's a good one. I don't know that there's a way to do it. If there is a way to do it, he'll probably show you. If there isn't a way to do it, there probably won't be a video about it. Sorry. But maybe I can get a hold of him and see if we can get that answer. That's a cool one. Let me write it down. Doc. My gut instinct is that there is not a way to do it, and the reason why I think that there's not a reason to do it is because it's an active menu, and so so yeah, let's go ahead and solo this out. So if I'm hovering over a face, if I'm hovering over a face and I hit spacebar, it's going to bring up one set of menus. If I hover over an edge, it's going to give me different menus. If I hover over a point, it's going to give me different menus. So I feel like this is probably the reason why this would not be, docked over to the side. However, that doesn't go to say that I hope the peanut is not the thumbnail that they use. No, the thumbnail that they use will probably be something more like this. Then again, I don't know. I don't know how much of all of this is automated. I'm very good at just trusting Kyle and Kingsley because they do an awesome job. Okay, yeah, so let's get over to that, Amir, because that's a good question. Let's go ahead, let's say polygroups, autogroups. Okay, that's better. Okay, so right now I have this piece, I have this piece, and I have this piece. They're all the same subtool, but it works the same as if you were to like merge down different subtools. Amir on YouTube was asking if there was a way to be able to merge or weld two meshes using ZModeler. Let's talk about this real quick. Okay, so I'm going to go in and I want to take this green, I want to modify it so that it's welded into this purple one. Okay, so let's take this and we're just going to delete single poly. Okay, I just want to get rid of parts that I don't need. Okay, on purple, let's go ahead and control shift click on it to be able to make it so that it's the only one that I have visible. Oh, this is what I need. Delete a poly, delete a poly. Let's get rid of a couple of these down here just to make sure that I have 1, 2, 3. Sweet. Yeah, here we go. Here we go. Okay, so Amir, this is what we're looking for right here. Okay, this is the really cool trick. Okay, so you have a couple of different things that you can do. Inside of your ZModeler, I'm inside of the ZModeler tool. Okay, so I'm going to hold spacebar on the point, holding over a vertex. I'm going to go to Stitch, 2 points to end point. Okay, when I do this, click once, click on the end point, and you'll see it's gone through and it's stitched those points together. Okay, so now to be able to get, which point is that? That's the bottom one, so we're going to click on that one. Click on this one. Okay, so now these ones are kind of hidden, so let's get this, pull it out some, take this, pull it out some. Okay, so now we can come back in here, stitch those two together, and now these are completely welded together. This is really helpful for, you know, really everything. But when I'm like, this is really seriously one of my favorite functions inside of ZBrush is this ZModeler brush. Pardon me. So again, I'm going to change this actually. So right now, if I hold my spacebar, I can show you this stitch has, you know, the target, which is what you're doing the action to, okay, and the modifiers. So how are you going to make that affect your model? I want to change it from end point to midpoint for right now, because I want these points to kind of meet in the middle. So I'm just going to 1, 2. Oh, didn't really work. 1, 2. Why isn't it working? Sometimes you gotta kind of wiggle your camera around, and sometimes you gotta check and make sure that you don't have any masking. 1, 2. Yeah, I guess it's not wanting to work right now. So what we're going to do instead is we're going to select this. I'm going to use slide. And let's just bring this all the way kind of clear over here. Let's get rid of some of these fun little polygons on the bottom. Can slide these down. Essentially, I'm just trying to level out my playground a little bit. Okay. Let's get this one. We're going to do a similar sort of thing. Delete. Delete. And I think that'll be fine. And then let's slide these. Let's try something like that. Okay, because now what I want to do is instead of going through and trying to weld these together, I'm going to come in and let's try bridging these. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead, let's hit bridge. Let me see. Okay, so that's where that one connects down to. And we'll just kind of make these kind of come in a little bit more comfortably, I guess, so that they don't stretch those polygons, warp those polygons too much. Okay. So now what's cool is I can take this, let's go with ZModeler. Going to use insert just to be able to make a halfway point there. Okay, and now I'm going to go ahead and hold spacebar. Let's go to bridge edges 1, and this is the opposite one, so that closes that off. Okay, let's say mask edge loop partial. Art of Bella, good to see you again. How was your week? How was your New Year's? You can also use the bridge tool, yes. You know what? For some reason, it got rid of my mask. And let me actually show you, there's a cool, you can bridge points too. For instance, right here, it's not working well for me to have this point kind of terminating right there. So what I'm going to do, let's come over here. Oh, I wish I had taken off the whole week. It would have been so nice. I did get to take a few days off, so I was able to take off you know, Christmas Eve and Christmas, and I was able to take off New Year's Eve and New Year's. That was nice. But yeah, we were able to go out, we were able to spend it with the in-laws and had some fun. It was really good. Okay, so let's go ahead, let's say stitch 2 points to midpoint, yeah, sure. Okay, so now we got this edge loop that's kind of coming up and over. It's quite fun too. We were able to go and play at the park some yesterday. I haven't been feeling like super stellar today or whatnot, but yesterday was a really much needed break. You know, it's just fun. Okay, that's not working. So whenever that's not working, I can just come over here. I can say delete the polygon. Let's try this again just in case. Nope. Okay, so since I know that I have this matches up here and this matches up here, I can just come over and say bridge. Bridge 1, 2, bridge 1, 2. Okay, so now I've got this nice edge flow coming in here. I've got a 5, actually it's a 6-pointed star. Not a huge deal. Like I'm really not a fan of having those sorts of points. So one of the things that I can do, I'm going to go geometry, crease. I'm just going to make sure I hit uncrease all. So to be able to get a little bit of a gap between there, I'll get 2 5-pointed stars here, which will be fine. But what I want to do is, yeah. So hopefully it's helpful to you to be able to see a couple different ways. Hopefully I got both of those ways in. But I'm going to come over here in my edge actions. Let's say crease, edge loop partial. Now I don't actually want a crease. I'm just showing you this this trick because I want to be able to separate this. Right here at this point, at this vertex, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 edges all feeding into that one vertex. And edge-wise, like edge flow-wise, it's just not great. And not that this is something that's going to be animated, so it doesn't matter as much. If this were a character, it'd be like, oh, we gotta change that, you know. But for this, it doesn't matter as much. But the way that I go around that is I can go in here, I can add a crease to those edges, okay, going right down through the middle. Then I can come over to my crease menu underneath geometry, and I can say bevel width. I can just take this and swing it apart. This isn't really coming apart, so you see the problems that this is creating. I'm going to hit split point. Just come over here, do something like this, and then we're just going to really mess it up for the sake of being able to fix it. Okay, so let's do this. Let's change this to delete polygroup. Let's say polygroup island, just in case there's another one around that we don't want to mess with. Okay, so keep in mind this is the flow that I want. Okay, I think the quickest and easiest way to getting these pieces separated the way that I want is to come over here, Control Shift, click on the purple. I want to make sure that I have that yellow piece there too. And then let's go ahead and we'll say Control Shift Alt, click and drag over these two pieces to get rid of them. See, now we've got all of these that are green. Now we've got all of these that are different green. Okay. So to be able to fix this, here's what I'm going to do. Oops. Right now I have 3 different polygroups. Okay. So here's what I want to do. I'm going to come over here to Subtool. I'm going to go to Split and Group Split. Say OK. And now I've got this piece, I've got this piece, and I've got the base tree section, which isn't really as important. But so now I've got these pieces and they're separate. And because we separated them by polygroups, I can now move them apart just exactly the way that I want them to. Now I can merge them back down. and we can bridge them together. There are other ways to do it. I think this is going to be my quickest option for right now. Come on. Shoot. One. Let's come underneath. Two. Okay, so it's just a matter of kind of finding the way around. And so now, this point right here, this is where our 6-pointed star was. Okay, so now instead of having one 6-pointed star, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. One 5-pointed star next to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Another 5-pointed star. Okay. At what point do you suggest moving off a point? I'm trying to figure out exactly what the question means. This one was 6, but when do you recommend fixing a point? I recommend fixing the point whenever it's going to cause issues with rendering or deformation. Typically, you'll get issues with 6-pointed stars, and you'll also get issues with well, just really kind of any number of points. So like even 5-pointed stars, you have to be really careful where you have them, where you place them. They are necessary, and it is something that you will need, but it's one of those things that you want to be very careful about how you control them, just so that you don't have them in places that are obvious. It's like right now, if I were to hit smooth, and you can kind of see it. Let me see, geometry, dynamic. Let's change this up to 2. Okay, so you can kind of see the way that it pinches a little bit where that 5-pointed star is. Let's smooth that much nicer. It's really hard to see, but right here, okay, so keep your eye on that point where that 5-pointed star is. If you turn that off, you can see it's kind of creating a little bit of a pinching effect right through there. Okay. Now that's what we want to try to avoid, and that's why we try to put these 5-pointed stars in places where they're not as obvious. Let's take it back down to 1. I like having it at 1. Let's see. I might actually, instead of having, oh, not the island. Oh, not the island. No, come on. Did that make sense? Did that answer the question that you had there? Okay, slide that, slide this. Insert. Now let's bridge it. Bridget Jones. Okay. Something like this is really cool, and hopefully this will be something of a neat little centerpiece for us in our overall diorama. One of the things that I want to think about is how can I make this feel like Candyland? And so, I mean, I'll try to keep my handy dandy Candyland handy. some of the things that I'm wanting to look at are what the different lands are, and how they used food to be able to support the personality of the area. Like there's Chocolate Mountain with Grandma Gooey. And it's like the mountain is made out of chocolate chunks, which is awesome, by the way. I don't think it'd be much of a mountain for too long if I lived there. I really like Candy Castle with King Candy. King Candy! It's made up of all sorts of foods. And it's got ice cream cones on top with like fudge drizzled on top. Got some swirled ice cream, all sorts of stuff. But it feels like they super redesigned them so that they could stay as far away from the Disney version as possible. Gingerbread House, that's really cool. Licorice Lagoon, it doesn't feel much like licorice, so a lot of what I'm trying to figure out is what foods, what desserts to use to make it feel like a Candyland piece, especially when I'm looking at things like a tree. And since these trees are moving more into like a winterland, this is an opportunity for me. I'll probably, when I up-res this, Control D a couple times, I can come in and I can start saying, okay, maybe I want this to be, like twisted peppermint tree, which could be really cool. But I gotta get to that point first. Okay. Control Shift. Actually, let's use my other duplicate technique here. Take this, swirl it around. Now I want to go through and modify things a little bit now, since a lot of these things are now really, really visible in other spots. I want to make sure that it's not looking the same, that it's not visibly. In fact, let's change where that bump happens. Let's have it happen lower. Let's have it happen lower. With each model, it becomes easier to identify issues. That is definitely true. These concentrated points have recently come up, so it helps to better understand their behavior. Yeah, so they create a lot of pinching, and they can often also create kind of like artifacts when you're rendering. And so it's always a good idea to try to control it as much as possible. Okay, let's go back in here, auto groups. Okay, so let's really quickly, just to show you, this kind of goes back a little bit to what Amir was asking. Just to show you one more time, here's another trick, for these sorts of things. This is why I model my things the way that I do. I model these sorts of roots with 8 edges going around the outside. The reason this is handy to me, I'm just going to go ahead, I'm going to take this and delete polyloop. It's all in alphabetical order in there, but somehow I never managed to find it very easily. Okay, so what I can do now is I can come over here to this point. I can hit split, points, sweet. I'm going to split that out like that. We're going to delete this polygroup island. So now what I can do is I can bridge two holes. I'm just going to say, yeah, this is fine. In fact, I wonder, I haven't actually ever tried this, so I'm going to try that. Say polygroup flat. And then if you want to, you can say aligned clicked edges. It's a handy feature. I'm going to click 1, and then click 2. You see that it bridges those together, so now this is one solid piece. I don't want this to be creased, so I'm just going to come over here, crease, hold Alt, so now it's not creased. If I wanted to, I can even come over here and say delete edge loop partial, or I can just use insert and hold Alt and click on that. I don't want to get rid of that second one though. Let's turn on mask, edge loop partial, control click in the empty space to invert that. It's funny, I narrate a lot what it is that I'm doing. Is that useful to you guys? Is that something that you find to be irritating? I want to make sure that I'm being helpful and entertaining, not dumb. Okay. So yeah, there we go. So now we got that root in there. Now one of the things that we gotta do volley motion. Well, hello there. I'm not gonna lie, I don't know who you are. Volley motion. I'm trying to think if the name sounds familiar. Okay, so now this right here, this is like too even. This is coming out and it's not really creating much of an appealing shape. So let's come over here, Alt click on that terrain. Let's play with this a little bit. I'm pretty sure I've seen you on here before though, right? Yeah, that's what I thought. You've been in here a few times. Okay, one of the things I like to try to do is let's vary up the terrain height. Okay, that's not doing for me what I'd like. Let's play with this a little bit. Okay. That's starting to be more appealing. Yeah, and Amir, it's always very helpful when you can figure out different ways to do things. You know, like when I was first learning Spanish, I tried to learn a bunch of different words to be able to say the same thing. But when I eventually started going in and what's it called? I've got like one of those nose tickles that just isn't going away. When I learned Spanish, I eventually moved into trying to draw pictures and associating the words with the pictures, and that seemed to work much better for me. For me personally, when I'm learning, I like to do things. I feel like I'm a very kinetic type learner. And so by practicing and by doing different things and experimenting and whatnot, I've been able to figure out all sorts of different techniques like those ones that we've just talked about. In Jewish Impact Films, good to see you. And yeah, we're probably going to take this one like all the way to finish. What does that mean? I'm not entirely sure at the moment, but we will figure it out. Okay, let's say maybe this is kind of coming over here like this. So yeah, the idea is to make it feel kind of like Candyland-esque with the Brazilian dessert sort of theme. Well, Brazilian desert theme, but at first when I saw it, I always think of sugar first, right? So it just made sense that it is just going to be Brazilian dessert. Okay, a little off topic, but do you listen to music or podcasts while you're at work? If so, do you get it? Yes, so recommendations. I like to listen to music. I don't know what music to recommend though. I kind of just go through and just compile songs that I enjoy. So it's really kind of a conglomeration of everything. It's really random. What I do like listening to science videos like Mark Rober and The Backyard Scientist. Maybe I won't actually. Yeah, I'll leave that in there. Scientist and whatever else it links me to. So one of the reasons why I enjoy different science and chemistry and engineering type videos is that these videos, especially Mark Rober, he used to work for NASA. Some of his work is on Mars at the moment, and that's pretty doggone cool. But so people with that sort of background have already gone through and figured out some really cool physics issues. And so I get to go through and listen and learn physics from these guys that have already used it in a really seriously heavy and super cool application. Genius Pete. I dig that. Username. So cool. Yeah, it's really super cool program. I love ZBrush. I mean, it's yeah. I mean, I just seriously I can't put it down. How to simulate snow. Sometimes those sorts of things are kind of experimental. If I'm wanting to simulate snow, especially for something, you know, just where I'm kind of sculpting it in, you can't call it Jenny. It's funny because like I had to do a double take just to make sure that there were two E's in there. It's like that's got to be what what it is, right? It's genius. I think it makes sense. It's really cool. It's really fun. Fun username. Well, it's 10 o'clock now. The nice thing about my time slot is that I don't have anybody behind me. The bad thing about my time slot is that it's still late enough that I need to go to bed. So what I'm going to do, let's take this. Let's move this over and down. And then we'll bridge it together. And remember, we're going to bridge it together so that when we get down to these points, we have 5-pointed stars instead of 6-pointed stars. Okay. When you're working in animation, this matters a ton. When you're working in sculpting, it doesn't matter. Doesn't matter nearly as much. Yeah, Amir. I love that about the internet. Being able to just access all that knowledge. Super, super handy. Okay, let's slide this point. Pucha la cosa. Okay, there we go. That's why. It's like, why isn't it working? And it's because I'm dumb. Okay, let's bridge these together. One of the things to be very, very aware of is that your bridge tool inside of ZModeler, it'll very often go through and it'll very like if you I mean you can bridge between an edge that's closed, you know, an edge that's already been, you know, that has faces attached to it, and an open edge. So it can get kind of messy sometimes, so just be aware of that as you're going in and trying to connect those edges using the bridge tool. Corley MJ, what does a concept modeler do? Is that basically like a 3D concept artist? Yeah, kind of. Essentially what I do, let's see, now that we have all that, we can go through and we can kind of plug those in. Essentially what I do is I essentially take whatever sketches are available and I start to use those as kind of my base idea for developing what the ride will look like in 3D. So I mean, you know, just whatever elements are within the drawing, I go through and I model it, or I kit bash it, which is essentially just taking pieces that are already built and just kind of mushing them together and making it work. do that a lot with doing machines and robots and things like that. Man, somebody needs to pay me to make robots. Yeah, Fusion 360, I've never actually used it. Is that something that you're having to use for a class, or is it just something that you're using for a client project? We'll use that. Oh, okay, so here's what we're going to do. Let's do the same thing over here like what we did with the other one. We're going to delete polyloop. Okay, island. Let's get rid of that. Need to split. Okay, since we've already done the split, we can just kind of go in there and do that. A hobbyist, huh? Okay. Have you... Well, I guess what kind of 3D printer do you use? Click two holes. Okay, so now we got those. And like we did before, we can come over here, we can insert, Alt tap on that. We can come up to geometry, crease, and we can say uncrease all. Okay, because we don't need anything creased. Let's come over here and let's bridge these things. I wish that there was a bridge edge loop partial. It'd be so cool. Okay, let's slide these. Building models of characters and such. FDM printers, okay. Printing, do you need to calculate anything, or is it just basically like you send the file off to the model to the printer and that's it? You do have to calculate some things like thickness, or especially if you're working with things that need to be a specific size. If you're working with miniatures, or if you're working on making parts for a car, or for like a whatever it is that you're building. If pieces need to be able to mesh together, you need to make sure that you measure them very accurately before you go through and put them into the 3D printer. Otherwise, you're going to kick it out with some materials and you're going to lose some of your precious filament. It's kind of a tricky battle, and it's one that I have lost many times. That being said, it's a fun process and it's definitely worth learning about. One of the things that I'm going through and trying to learn a little bit better is hollowing and supports. Yeah, I mean, really, it's just a little bit of extruding and bridging and everything, you get a tree. But yeah, being able to make good supports and how that works. Like Form Left, I have a Form 2 printer, and it's a really crazy piece of tech. I really love it. In fact, I was talking with my wife earlier about how cool of a tool it is, especially if you can find more of like a practical application for it. And that's something that she finds really cool, is that if you have a practical application for something like that. I was particularly interested in like designing and building my own robots. Ooh, I'll have to play with that. because yeah, one of the nice things is you want to be able to measure your thickness. With the Formlab, with the Form 2 printer, you want to be really careful that when you're setting things up to print, you don't want to have cupping, which means that, or I guess I think the cupping is the other way around actually. So you get like these, I think they refer to it as minima, but it's this this dip in the model that really, you look at it, I mean, it's not going to, I mean, you're not going to need supports there, but you need to be able to make a hole in those spots, so that it doesn't create suction when it tries to pull it off of the print bed. I've had entirely too many failed prints lately, and it's driven me nuts. But then learning that simple little thing has helped me to be able to figure out, okay, one of the things that I need to be able to do to make it work. Yeah, and I've used Simplify 3D. I would love to be able to use Simplify 3D for the Form 2, because it's been, that was a helpful tool when I was working with FDM and a MakerBot. And actually, I own a license for it. I just don't have an FDM printer to use it with, so I haven't really even bothered downloading it to my computer for a long time. Okay, so these roots, Rhino's interesting. It depends on what you want to use it for. It's like, I know that a lot of people at work use Rhino. I don't know exactly what it does. I know that in one of my past jobs, I worked at a foundry, and they did a lot of big projects for major clients like Louis Vuitton and some other big name people that I have no idea who they were, but they were big. And one of the things that they used to be able to prepare their files for milling, which is kind of like it's like the opposite of 3D printing. Instead of like creating something, it's taking a block of something and it's cutting it away until you have what's left. So they would use Rhino to be able to prepare their models for that. And actually at Disney, that's part of what they use Rhino for as well. They don't use it for animation or anything like that, just for the parks, and getting things ready for installation. It's a really neat process. Another song that I was listening to earlier, since you were asking, Bella. Another song I was listening to earlier that I liked. I think it was Shawn Mendes. Japan, something like that. Can't remember. I heard it and I liked it. I haven't bought it yet or anything, but I listened to it and I liked it. let's come down here just to make sure that we understand which pieces are attached and which ones are not. So look, so far we've got these pieces that we worked on. So let's go ahead and hit auto groups. And you can see those turned to be the same color. Lost in Japan. Thank you. That's it. Yeah, that's a fun song. Really enjoyed it. Okay, so over here, one more time, we're just going to go through this. I'm going to go through delete polyloop, delete island, because I want to get rid of this little knob over here. Go split. Delete polygroup island. Bridge, two edges, oh, not two edges, shoot, two holes, please. Sunflower, Post Malone. I'm going to check it out. Where did my pen go? There it is. I'm going to check it out, and then I'm going to get back to you and see, let you know how I liked it. Okay. Like we did before, I'm going to go geometry, crease, uncrease all. Okay, and then let's actually just get rid of this. Or we can hit slide, edge loop partial. And let's go ahead, insert single edge loop, and let's just get rid of that one. That's fine. Okay. See, we're starting to have something now. Goes to Christmas Future. You just gotta get in, you know, get in, get your hands Z modeling. Okay, I'm gonna, oh shoot. I'm gonna come over here, let's insert that. Let's mask. Make sure that that's rotated out correctly. So Alt and then click on this the rotate button there. Hello, Eugene. Okay, and then I'm going to control click in the empty space, control and drag up. Okay, let me see. Okay, I'm just going to kind of scale this down. And let's just make sure that I've got that ready to go. Let's hold Alt, drag that up. Oh yeah, save file. That's a good idea. Make sure you save, everyone. Do you want to replace it? Yes. Okay, so I'm trying to keep. This is just something that I'm trying to experiment with, just to make sure, naming convention wise, to be able to make sure that I understand where I am. Right now I'm on Sertão 2, Sertão 2, right here. Last week, where I ended up being Sertão 1. So when I save at the end of tonight, it'll end up being Sertão 3, and that'll pick up next week. That'll help me know that this will be the that this is the second week. This is the result of the second week, and then moving into the third week, this is what what we got going on. Okay, I don't want this to be all I don't want this to be super uniform. So let's actually do this. Come in here and kind of give it a little bit of a twist. Actually, let's do it this way. I'm going to try to see, the twist is nice because it helps me to get kind of a base for the idea of this shape that I want. Let's see, because now I can go ahead and I can take these points and I can modify them to better fit just any new idea that I want to present with the shapes. Actually, let's see if we can take this and maybe we start moving it back the other direction. Not a ton, just a little bit. Since we have these sorts of areas now, let's make sure that we've got a zone here where we can pull out a branch. Let's go insert. This will help so that we can create some I mean, obviously, if you're going through and creating a branch, you're trying to help yourself in creating something a little bit more appealing. What I want to do, I'm going to use my scale tool. Just kind of point it up in that direction. Now, if you haven't used the transpose line, play around with it. It's a really, really great tool. And it's really useful. So I'm going to make sure that I'm in my scale. And if you scale from this center point, you'll see that it's scaling in every direction except for the direction that the tool is pointing in. At this size, my subtool is actually quite large. So at this size, it's not going to have as much of an effect. But so if I hold Alt and I scale in that white circle, it's going to have more of an effect around that point. So I can scale it in a little bit and hit 1 a couple of times. Let's do something cool. So let me see. Let's say maybe we want to have a branch coming out right here. So let's grab these points, bring them over here, drag this one over. The scale of this tree I couldn't actually tell you. It's just units tall. I mean, let's if I come over to Z plugin, I go to 3D print hub, I could say update size ratios, and it could let me kind of decide. So really it's just saying it's like 30 inches tall or 763 millimeters tall. Not very tall. Yeah, I have characters actually that are way bigger than this. It's not a good idea to work too big. So actually, maybe what we do, let's delete this. Tree 1, a mile wide, is not quite that big. Okay. Oh yeah, insert. Go ahead and kind of pull that out some. I can change back to my gizmo. Okay, so I'm just trying to kind of pull this around, rearrange my model a little bit so that hopefully this will give me some cool groove kind of going around this branch. Okay, so now what's nice, let's go over here. Let's use our curved tube. My phone's saying it's time to get ready for bed, and I agree. Okay, so let's just kind of drag out a big branch. I don't want it to get that thin though. So we'll just come over here. Actually, maybe we can just make it a little bit more consistently thin. So delete poly loop. Delete the island. I'm gonna bridge 2 holes, 1 line. Yeah, looks good. And just like that, we got a branch. Okay, so we're going to go through and we're going to be working on this one for a while. This is kind of how this process goes. There will be a lot of this type of work before we get into the other stuff. The more detailed sculpting sort of stuff. And so it's important when you go through and you start working on projects like this, that you have a good, clear understanding of what it is that you want to do with it. Or if you're doing it for work, If you're doing your sculpt for work, then make sure that you understand kind of the direction or the general direction of where you want to take it, where they want to take it. And it'll start to turn out pretty nicely. So the reason that I am favoring this sort of workflow right now is that I really love ZModeler, but that's not the reason why. The reason I'm keeping it like this and I'm using ZModeler a lot is because I feel like it's more conductive to the end result that I want to achieve. I want this tree to retain good topology, and I feel like by keeping my topology nice and even, I'll be able to maintain my shapes and create a more appealing piece. It's going to look like this for a little while at the beginning. It's just kind of the nature of it all. Get it? It's a tree. Nature. Sorry, dad jokes. I'm infected. But eventually, once I get into once I get far enough with my topology, I'll be able to transition over into more higher details. And while you might be right, Jewish Impact Films, however, I mean, this is my workflow, and it works for me. I mean, so far, you know, all my pieces seem to turn out just fine. So, I mean, you're welcome to choose your own workflow. I'm not saying that you have to do it this way, but I do it this way. Because to me, I find it more fluid. Sometimes it gets a little finicky. Possibly flowers. Flowers, there won't be any. Yeah, okay. Thanks for clarifying Jewish Impact Films. I appreciate that, and I appreciate you asking questions, because that's you know, it's always good to participate in these sorts of things. I feel like it's been helpful for me to have you here, so I appreciate having you here. Okay. But yeah, I mean, the other thing is to be able to keep it low resolution so that it's easier to manipulate and easier to change and whatnot. So now I'm able to go ahead and create design. Oh my goodness, Lightwave. Yeah, so AD on Twitch, whoops. Yeah, so no, there actually won't be any flowers. The idea is for this point is for this to be kind of a transitionary point between winter and desert. And so, you know, kind of what I mean, there may be, I may go into, you know, trying to create a sense of scorching right here at the end of this tree. But so far, I'm not entirely sure. Candy flowers and leaves. I was like, I already know that I want. I already know that I want to make this into like a candy cane sort of thing. How do you settle an idea when you have too many ideas? Sometimes it's just like working through those ideas until I find one that doesn't not work. You know, sometimes you go through and you just try ideas, and all the ones that don't work, you just kind of throw it to the side and say, that was a terrible idea. I'm glad I didn't stop on that one, you know. I don't know. Do you use insert mesh brushes on your workflow as modeler? Like for the branches, you could model one and weld it to your base. Yes, that's true. That's true, you could. In fact, I probably should do something like that. Maybe what we'll do next time, I need to get my sticky notes out. Oh my goodness. I had taken notes on a sticky note, and I thought I had done it at work, but I guess I had done it here. It was here this whole time. I tried looking for it at work today, and I couldn't find it. Anyway, so notes. So next week we're gonna create a IMM branch brush, and maybe, I don't know, what do you guys think? Maybe using Z-spheres to be able to do that? Because that'll be another technique that we can use to be able to generate basic meshes, where we can go ahead and we can have, you know, we can generate something really quickly, and then be able to take that, use that as an insert mesh brush, pull it out on our base tree, and be able to weld it in, be able to make it part of our... Man, I need to start running again. Yeah, sometimes I'll do some sketching. Sometimes I do a lot of sketching, but sometimes I do some sketching. Like when I was doing the ArtStation challenge, I did so much sketching. I probably like way overthought the idea. I took it in a direction that wasn't as beneficial for the project. On this sort of project, I would love to go through and do some sketching. I just don't have the time to do so. So that's been kind of a tricky fact of life. So you just get so busy. So some things just kind of have to be reprioritized. But yeah, no, I like to sketch things out in 2D, my sketchbook and whatnot beforehand. Yeah. I mean, I could probably make this stuff available at some point. What I could probably do is I'll keep track of the insert mesh brushes that I create along the way. I mean, I'm saving them already to my folder. It's already synced up to my Dropbox. So what I could do eventually is take I could take those and make them available on my Gumroad. Most of these would probably be available for free, like those peanuts. I mean, I'd make that available for free. I don't know how many people would actually care to get them and how they would actually use them. I have no idea. And I don't really it's not something that I super care about. But I have other brushes that I make that are slightly more complex, or they're more useful, and so I usually charge a small amount for them, usually like $1, maybe a couple of dollars depending on how many brushes are in the pack, whatnot. I gotta make this thing bigger. You guys are starting to talk now. How to use the visualization tools. Steve X, I may need a little bit of clarification on your question. Teach us how to use the visualization tools. What visualization tools are you referring to? So you can see like right here, this is creating a little bit of a problem for me. I'm just going to kind of smooth that out a little bit. Is there anything better with using ZBrush for this versus Maya? Yes, I did compete in the Sculpt Off a few years back. Oh yeah, yeah. I competed with Joe. Yeah, he's a good guy. That's funny. That is really funny. And it's funny because, like, yeah, anyway, so is there anything better with using ZBrush for this Maya Max Blender? I do a lot, I mean, at Disney, I primarily work inside of Maya. I don't get the opportunity to work inside of ZBrush a whole lot. A lot of my exercise and coming in and working on projects like this inside of ZBrush, it's almost just as much about me seeing how much I can do inside of ZBrush of what I do inside of Maya. Yeah, so if I were to go through and I were to do a big a big peppermint tree inside of Maya, you know, I might think about, you know, what tools do I know inside of ZBrush that could get me there, and whether it gets me there faster or if it gets me there more easily. A lot of this sort of stuff, you know, because I'm able to come in and very quickly and easily move between creating new points and manipulating new points in a sculptural way. I think that's like the key mark for me, is that it's sculptural. I think that because of that, I'm able to go in and I feel like it's creatively, it frees me a lot. Okay, Tommy, that's funny. That's funny. Animal crackers. Good night. Alright, well, I gotta get up in the morning. And my son had a really hard time sleeping last night, so I think I might call it a night. That and my wife is probably wondering when I'm going to be done. Poor girl. Okay. Well, I'm glad to see that this computer is working so stinking well for me. My other computer would be super chugging along at this. And so, yeah, definitely a good move. Definitely a good move. Okay. Let's actually take this. I'm going to take, just for the sake of being able to kind of warp it, make it so that it's not this perfect, beautiful little tree. Let's kind of pull this out some. Sometimes Zach Petrock, he's one of my mentors. He told me to, on my smooth brush, he always takes it down to a really low intensity. He usually takes it down below 10. if that's what's best for what you're doing right at the moment, I'd say totally do it. I usually take mine to, if I need it to be more subtle, I'll take it down to below 20. It's pretty rare that I'll take it down beneath 10 unless I'm working on like a character's face. Yeah, I did finally get my new computer. It was several days late. The ones I use to see the canvas. Okay, so the visualization tools I use to see the canvas. Okay, let me get this really quick, and then let's see if we can work through your question there, Steve. Okay, so cool. Yeah, let's hit save. Sertão A. Hit yes. Okay, so now a few of the things that we can go through and we can talk about. Let's just kind of hide that. We don't need it for right now. Okay. A few of the things we can talk about. Yeah, since Zeok mentioned Spotlight, let's talk about that really quick. So inside of, I just hit Shift Z to get rid of it. It's just those images over to the left. Now under texture, if you come over here, you have these different options down here. Okay, so I have import, and I can bring in any image. Okay, so texture, now I can hit this, and I can hit add to Spotlight. I already had it added to Spotlight, but what's important is that you have this wheel right here with different options. So right here, the first thing that I do, there's this scale button. I just scale it down. You can click and drag it to a different place. And what this does is this allows you to be able to see your model and to be able to see your reference at the same time. You'll see that like your model is going behind those images and those images don't move. That's really useful to me. I don't like using image planes because I feel like it's not constant. You have to worry about whether or not perspective is going to affect how you see it, things like that. Now, inside of ZBrush, and it's hard to see with the way that this looks right now. Let me pick out a darker color. Okay. So you see this main space is called your document, your canvas, right? Your document space. Okay, you see there's this thin gray line that goes around the outside. That's representing the border of your active document space. So this is helpful. Oh, I'm going to hit Shift Z to get rid of my spotlight. I don't need it at the moment. If I'm working in here like really tight and I want to be able to come in here and like be able to kind of move around or whatever. If I click on my model, it's going to move. But I can come over here and I can click and it's going to essentially act like your right click. You're going to be able to rotate around. This is outside of that border space. One of the other cool things, like I showed just a second ago, underneath document, you have this button right here where it says back. That's your document background color. I usually go through and I take that and then I click and drag it up to the hand, and that's just my default color. That's what I'll use just as my background color for ZBrush by default. You can get rid of this range. You can either bring it up so you have some gradient there. Some people like that. I don't like it, so I'll take it down to 0. But what's cool is with this background, you can essentially give it whatever color you can see inside of the UI. Okay, so it's really handy. And then there's this other thing that's really helpful is being able to change your document size. There's this constrain proportions button. This is really important to be able to turn on and off. If it's orange, it's on. If it's grayed out, it's off. So now what you can do is you can go through, you can change your document size. Okay, I have mine set to 2500 pixels by 2500 pixels. Okay, you can choose whatever size you want. You can just leave that. And then what's cool is that if you have a blank canvas, so I just hit T to be able to go out of edit mode, and then I hit Control N to be able to get rid of that everything there. So now you can come over to Document, and you can say Save as Startup Doc. Okay, and you'll see that the document has been stored successfully, and it'll be loaded whenever you launch ZBrush. Okay, so this becomes really helpful to me. One of the other things you can do, and some of these buttons over here to the right of your document are really helpful to me. So just to be able to show you, flashing light warning. Like, for real, is everybody seeing that? Or I'm not sure when I know what you're talking about. It goes to Christmas Future. So over here you have perspective. You can turn that on and off. Okay, you can see that changes how you can perceive your model. These are really helpful to me, specifically this zoom, okay, which is zooming in and out on your document space. Okay, so I like to do that a lot. Okay, so I come out here, I can figure out how I want to frame my image on my document. And then if I wanted to, I can come over, let's say, oh, let's get rid of that hidden piece. Okay, so now that I've got this here, and if I wanted to, I can come over and I can say, oh, let's get this one too. Hit D just to make sure that that's nice and pretty. Hit D just to make sure that's nice and pretty. Now I can hit my BPR render to be able to render it out. And look at that. We've got this beautiful little image here, and it's taking up that whole document space. Oh, when I was changing the color in the background. Poor guy. I hope you didn't have any kind of problems. So now that I've gone through and made a render, you can come over to Document and Export, and then that's essentially going to pull up a window where you'll be able to save that render, save that image. You can choose your file format, JPEG, PNG, a PSD file, whatever it is that you choose to do. But that becomes helpful. Now I've zoomed out. If I hit Actual, it's going to put it back to where it is by default. So really helpful. Yeah, those buttons were really great. In fact, it was really fun. These things over here on the right, and these tricks with the changing the document size. When I was at the ZBrush Sculpt Off 2 years ago, 2016, I showed a few of the guys how to do that. And it blew their minds. They thought it was like this default thing, and they had to put up with the gradient and all that. And yeah, it was funny. So anyway, I'm gonna call that good for now. I think that right now my spotlight looks weird, so really quickly I'm gonna change that back. Hope I didn't cause any problems for you there. To be able to change my spotlight back, I'm just gonna go back to Load Spotlight and go back to the spotlight that I had created and hit OK. Now it's back to normal. But yeah, so far it's starting to turn out to be quite a bit better, quite a bit more appealing-ish. I mean, there's a lot left to do, and I think that I'll probably have to make this land kind of jut out a lot over here. But we'll have to play around with it. I'm gonna call it for tonight. I know some of you are probably like, finally. Okay. Cool. Yep, I'm gonna call it for tonight. Make sure to hit save. Whew. And there we go. Cool. Anyway, thanks a lot for tuning in and witty banter and all that fun. So hopefully I was able to answer questions and whatnot satisfactorily, and yeah, I mean, tomorrow will be another great day. I'm pretty sure that Oscar from earlier, that he'll be on, and yeah, so tune in and see what it is that he'll be working on. I think he's got this really cool creature that he'll be working on tomorrow. So it'll be a good night, and take care of your loved ones. Do a good job at work, and happy ZBrushing. I'll see you around.